All right, this is Lactose Intolerance Explained by Miles Bartlett and Josh Bates.
So the question that we are answering is, why can some people digest milk products and others cannot?
Our initial ideas were that because some people's digestive systems process lactate differently.
And this was kind of right, but by the end of the unit, we learned that some people just don't have lactase, which is the enzyme that breaks lactose into glucose and galactose.
This allows the small intestine to absorb the lactose. Okay, so our question for this slide was, what is in milk?
So initially, we just thought that it was calcium, because that's all we knew, because like back in nutrition labels, but that's clearly very wrong.
Yeah, we now know that milk contains lactose, which is milk sugar, protein, which is amino acids, and lipids, which is glycerol and fatty acids.
Okay, so our next question is, what happens to the molecules of milk during normal digestion when it's in the mouth?
So we had no idea what happened in the mouth. So we just said that that's just where the milk was consumed. That's just the basic thing that happens in the mouth.
And again, we were like kind of right, but towards the end, we learned, like, we deepened our knowledge and learned that nothing really happens because there's no lactase in the mouth, so it doesn't really affect the digestive system of lactose in your body.
So our question that we answered on this slide was, what happens to molecules of milk during normal digestion in the small intestine?
Yes, so originally we thought that the milk curdles in your small intestine. For what reason, I really don't know. It was not right.
Yeah, that was way off. I thought that it curdled. I don't. I just heard it that it curdled. I don't. I just put it down. I had no idea if it was right or not. We now know that what actually happens is that the substrate lactose, which is glucose and galactose, goes into the small intestine, and whereas the enzyme lactase is produced during normal digestion. Now, lactase breaks down lactose into its separate molecules, glucose and galactose. And this makes it easier to absorb. This makes the lactose easier to absorb.
So the next question was, what happens to molecules in milk during normal digestion in the large intestine?
Initially, we thought that after it curdled in the stomach, which had like little effect during normal digestion, it just went into the large intestine and was digested. That's the only purpose.
Okay, so what happens actually is the two molecules split from the enzyme lactase and lactose are glucose and galactose, and they are absorbed in the blood for energy. Also absorbed in the blood is lipids, which is fat, and that is used for insulation. So that was our deepened thinking of that.
So the question that we answer on this side through the diagrams is, what happens to molecules of milk for someone who is lactose intolerant in the mouth?
Yeah, so we just initially thought that it just kind of didn't really do much, just drank it, that was it.
Exactly the same thing that happened for someone that had normal digestion. There's no difference. And honestly, we were like actually right. Since there's no lactase produced during normal digestion, there's definitely no lactase produced for someone that was lactose intolerant.
Well, sorry, the final question, or maybe not final, but one of our last questions is, what happens to molecules of milk for someone who is lactose intolerant in the small intestine?
So initially, again, back to curdling, we thought that just curdling had a huge effect, and that was really what caused most of the symptoms of lactose intolerant people.
So we now know that people who are lactose intolerant do not even produce the enzyme lactase needed to break up glucose and galactose.
So the question we answered on this slide is, what happens to molecules of milk for someone that is lactose intolerant in the large intestine?
So we originally thought that if you are lactose intolerant, when the lactose goes through the large intestine. It's just very poor digestion. It's a lot worse than if you are not lactose intolerant. And literally, it's much more than that.
Yeah. So we now know that the undigested lactose, which wasn't broken down by the enzyme lactase, just goes into the large intestine where bacteria feeds on it and produces gas, and like that also causes like the symptoms of lactose intolerance.
The end.
The end.
Hopefully, be good.